Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, when I finally became a responsible being, I decided that before making my choice among the mentioned sacred ways, I would bring my planetary body into the state of the sacred Kshok Nara. That is, into the state of all brain balanced being perspectiveness, and only when already in that state to choose the way for my further activities. With this aim, I then ascended the mountain Vezinyama, where for 40 days and nights I knelt on my knees and devoted myself to concentration. A second 40 days and nights I neither ate nor drank, but recalled and analyzed all the impressions present in me of all the perceptions I had acquired during my existence here, during the period of my self-preparation. A third 40 days and nights I knelt on my knees, and also I neither ate nor drank, and every half hour I plucked 2 hairs from my breast. And only when, thereafter, I had finally attained complete freedom from all the bodily and spiritual associations of the impressions of ordinary life, I began to meditate how to be.
These are the words of Ashyata Shamash. Now I'm going to tell you something that may shock you. So maybe it's best if you're standing up to be seated. Because here and now, for the first time, I am going to admit to all of you out there that I am not of the attainment associated with Ashyata Shamash. Yes, there you have it, the unnerving revelation that Neal Fox, producer of the Lucifer series, has openly stated that his is not the same high consciousness attainment level as that of the mythical Gurdjieffian guru Ashyata Shamash. As you can imagine, it has sent shockwaves throughout the country and much of Europe. Today I have in the studio the man who claims to have finally brought Fox to his startling public confession, the leader of a local fourth-way group who calls himself Mr. J. Thank you for giving us some of your time, Mr. J.
Not at all.
So, you contacted the Lucifer series not too long ago?
Yes, and I tried to remind Mr. Fox of the need to match the state of one's inner being with one's level of head knowledge.
Meaning that Fox suffers from too much head knowledge and not enough being essence awareness.
Something like that, yes.
And that brought him to his public admission.
Well, the logic of my arguments reached him, yes.
Tell me, not knowing Fox, how did you determine that he was not on the same being essence plane of awareness as the mythical Ashyata Shamash?
He made a video critical of P.D. Ouspensky.
Which, from what I understand, you never really commented on one way or another.
I was more concerned with helping Mr. Fox, as you Americans say, get over himself.
And you knew the need was serious from having watched his not very flattering video on Ouspensky.
I knew that his head knowledge overreached his spiritual comprehension, certainly.
In what way?
What?
In what way had his knowledge of P.D. Ouspensky overreached his spiritual comprehension of Ouspensky?
Do not react.
What?
You are reacting.
Well, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from.
You are reacting. It reminds me of how I had to caution Fox not to be offended by my friendly advice, and now here you are getting like he is, trying to discuss.
And that's reacting?
It is when you lack being essence comprehension of a given topic. Discussion is pointless, a mere empty abstraction.
So the real issue is that until Fox attains to your extremely high level of consciousness, there's no point in discussing things one way or another.
Lack even that. Well.
Let's open this up to some callers. Caller number 1, how you doing?
Thank you, James, for taking my call.
And your name is?
I am Mr. Q.
And you had your own Gurdjieff group too, Mr. Q?
Yes, a group larger than Mr. J.
Well, only by one person who only shows up on Fridays.
Don't react, Mr. J. My group is larger. I was just trying to get the media to report accurately for a change.
Yes, well, anyway, Mr. Q, what do you make of recent developments with the Lucifer series?
Well, I would just like to point out to Mr. J that Fox's critical remarks about P.D. Ouspensky were valid enough. But Fox is wrong when he says that the only real question is whether or not one is still suffering.
So you reject Fox's essentially practical Buddhist approach to inner knowledge.
What?
So you reject Fox's essentially practical Buddhist approach to inner knowledge.
Don't react.
What?
You're reacting.
Yeah, I'm just asking a question.
A loaded question that essentially puts my understanding of Gurdjieff in a bad light. Yes. If that is not reaction, young man, I don't know what is.
Well, actually, I'm just trying to get down to what your understanding has to say about consciousness attainment if it isn't about the cessation of suffering. What you mean by that? He hung up.
It is just as well that Q hung up. Obviously, his being essence comprehension lags far behind his head knowledge.
Because he agrees with Fox about Ouspensky?
Exactly.
Excuse me, yes, you're on the air. Who's this?
Excuse me, but this is Q again, and there is nothing wrong with the state of my being essence comprehension compared to that of Mr. J.
Do not react, Q.
I'm not reacting.
Excuse me, another caller, yes?
Yes, I am Mr. X, and my group was once bigger than either J or Q, until everybody started watching the Lucifer series and its Hasnamusian heresies.
It's what?
It's Hasnamusian heresies.
What's that?
Hasnamus denotes every already definitized common presence of a three-brained being, both those consisting only of the single planetary body, as well as those whose higher being bodies are already coated in them, and in which, for some reason or other, data have not been crystallized for the divine impulse of objective conscience.
And what's that exactly in plain English?
Hasnamusians are deceivers, those who follow in the footsteps of the false teacher, Lentro Hamsanin.
Like the Antichrist.
Much worse than the Antichrist. Antichrist just destroy planets. Hasnamusians seek to destroy Gurdjieffian study groups. Lentro Hamsanin, the great Hasnamus, was pure evil, for he knew the truth, but sought nonetheless to corrupt it, so that he could lead others astray.
How did he do that?
By preaching economic democracy.
Well, with the Tea Party and all, Fox's kind of left-wing and reaction, I guess. A lot of us are.
Left wing. James Neal Fox is a closet Bolshevik, not just Hasnamusian, but Lentro Hamsanin himself, the very incarnation of Lentro Hamsanin.
Well, he was headed that way, perhaps, but let us not overstate it. And let us not forget that, even though he has a weakness for liberal social and environmental concerns, as well as seeking his own personal answers in life. Under my guidance, however, he has nevertheless finally admitted that spiritually he is not perfect. Not by any Gurdjieffian standard at any rate. And that is a start.
Oh, he never said he was perfect. The announcement is just more mockery, you fools.
Do not react, X.
I'm not reacting. It is just a statement of fact. You are playing into his hands.
Well, why did you call Mr. X?
Could we get back to the subject at hand? That's why I called.
What's that? I forget. I'm stoned.
The issue is Fox. He may sometimes be entertaining, but he is the incarnation of Lentro Hamsanin. So some of the points he makes are meant to deliberately corrupt his viewers.
Which ones?
What?
Which one of his points are meant to deliberately corrupt viewers, and why?
Don't react.
What?
You're reacting.
Excuse me, but this man's hysterical intrusion is interrupting our discussion here.
Discussion? There's no discussion. You're just two Hasnamusian slugs reacting to one another.
I am not reacting. It is Q. He is reacting.
No, I'm not. It's you, Jay. Anyone can see who's the Hasnamusian here.
Well, I think our caller is just wanting to share his point of view.
Oh, could you spare us your media bias? You ask us to be on your show, and then we get the bias.
I hate that.
Me too.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. Z, and my group is bigger than any of these Hasnamusians.